All right, so OmniCenter has a couple of different basic data sources that it uses to collect the data. These kind of fall into two major categories. There's pulled data, which is data that we're actively collecting from other systems, so we're actually querying them. This is stuff like SNMP, it's like WMI. It can be APIs that are SOAP or REST-based or JSON-based. It can even be SQL. In the case of like MS SQL and Oracle, we're actually using dedicated SQL connections to pull the data from, transactional SQL and things like that. It also includes Windows Event Log, which interestingly, Windows doesn't do a great job of pushing event logs to other systems, so we have to go pull them. The second major category is pushed data, and this is stuff that would get sent to us by other systems. So this is going to be things that other systems will send us sort of out of band, regardless of whether or not we're ready to receive them. So this is stuff like syslog, this is stuff like netflow or sflow or ipfix. SNMP traps fall into this category, and as well as we've got some APIs that are constantly listening for information to update status on services and things like that. So just by way of illustration, poll data runs on a timer. We go fetch a particular statistic from a device under management. We authenticate to it. It returns the data. A few minutes later, the process repeats again. So it kind of goes through the step where just on a regular calendar or a clock, we're always pulling that data down. And then this is the data that typically gets stored for, time series performance type data for thresholds and for, kind of the performance monitoring side of things, as opposed to, things that are pushed to us, like, for example, syslog or netflow, which will get sent to us whenever the device thinks it's ready for us to receive them. So as soon as it has a syslog message to send, it'll just send it to us. We've got to be ready to receive that. And then these can be used for things like, creating out of band alerts or as backups to pulled type data to be able to get notified on certain kind of failures faster, or by devices that don't really support pulled protocols like SNMP correctly. So that polled data is collected at regular intervals, and most of the graphs that you see that look like this are going to be based on that polled data. So this is the threshold data that we build histograms from. It allows us to create top talkers reports, and we store 3 years of this data. So the further back you go in time, the less granular the data becomes, but the highest resolution data is always stored for at least 100 days. So the idea being that you can always run reports for the current quarter at the highest possible resolution. After that, it rolls up into 30-minute averages for about 6 months, and then it rolls into 4-hour averages, which we retain for the full 3 years. So you can still go back and get a pretty good picture of what your working day was like 2 years ago, at least from a high-level statistical perspective. So it rolls up kind of the average data, but the peak data is always retained. So you can always go back and get a feel for, kind of what was the maximum volume we achieved last year versus this year, for example.